Sunday Surefire podcast. I'm your host, the commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown,
Hey, hey.
and the other co-host, Ethan Weaver.
Kamish, how we doing?
We're doing pretty good, boys. Doing pretty good. We are coming back with our second week of DFS, Daily Fantasy Football. We are going to put the finishing touches on week one with our Told You So segment, where we shout out the guys that we got right and during the first week of the NFL season on the DFS front. Then we're going to be talking bullish buys, the high profile names that you know that are expensive but worth every penny to get into your lineup this week. We're talking to our two deep segment, which is our defensive plays that you should be getting into your lineups for week two. And then our pick six category, where we talk about the under the radar guys, players that are going to crush and return value for you at a lower cost, usually around 5,500 for non QBs. Quarterbacks for 6,000 or so or less typically for us in that category. And then, of course, we have some hot takes, and we love tossing those out once a week during season in these DFS shows. But let's get the party started with some told you so's. Aaron, what do you have here as our winner in our week one regular slate? What do you have for told you so's?
Yeah, no, thanks, Kamish. Yeah, week one was fun. I think we think we had a lot of interesting things that happened week one. But yeah, as far as told you so's, finished up with 131 points. Definitely like that. Start off the gates all right. I guess my biggest claim to fame was I said Chargers defense. They were cheap. Anytime you get defenses under 3,000, they were 2,900. They had 14 points for your defense, so they had 4 sacks, 1 pick, and 2 fumble recoveries. So great play there. And then obviously Tyreek Hill, being one of the top wide receivers in that slate, scoring 29 points was obviously a good call there to have in your lineup. And then not really a home run pick, but I said Sam Darnold scoring you 16 points at the quarterback position. Like I said, he didn't really go crazy point wise, but only spending 5,200 on quarterback allowed me to get some other expensive guys in my lineup. So those are my told you so's from last week.
Yeah, you hit that 3x mark, so three times the investment with the points coming back, which is good, which is what you want. Yeah, it's even at a cheaper play with a guy like Darnold. Ethan took home first place in our Thursday night contest, the first one of the year. Ethan, who do you have for our told you so for told you so's?
Yeah, it was nice to win the Thursday night matchup against you guys. So I'll start with that one because I had a few more I told you so's with that one than the main slate, unfortunately for me. But I call that Rashee Rice. He had 30.45 points. And like I said last week on the pod, Rashee Rice, I believe, is going to be the highest target earner on the Chiefs. That came to fruition in week one, and I think that's gonna be a mainstay for Rashee Rice for the rest of the season. So I was very happy to see Rashee Rice ball out and be the highest target earner on the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, we called out, all three of us called out Xavier Worthy. Obviously, he balled out with 2 touchdowns. He scored 20.8 points. So it was great to have him in your lineup at his cost. And I also want to tack on, I'm sorry, Aaron, but I did tell you McCole Harmon was gonna get a goose egg. It's a
You're right.
guarantee.
You did call that. You called that out.
So three for three there, but in the main slate, same with Aaron, Tyreek Hill, 29 points. I mean, it's hard not to get Tyreek Hill in your lineup. He's just that good. And because I didn't really hit on anything else, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I did mention Jaden Daniels over Sam Darnold, and he crushed too. So it was a good week for the Thursday night, but it was a tough one for me on the main slate.
All right, all right. And speaking of Nicole Hardman, I think I went one step further and said we need to schedule Aaron an intervention for Nicole Hardman. So that'll take place next week, Aaron. Make sure you're on time
All
for that.
right.
We
I'll
are
look
we
at
are
my
gonna get to
calendar
the
there.
bottom of this problem together. My told you so is quickly here. Jalen Waddle was my most expensive player last week. Like I said, went with a balanced lineup. $6,300, returned 19.2 fantasy points. And then Xavier Worthy, Ethan mentioned it, but we all kind of had him as our bargain player, $5,800. Returned just over 20 points, which was great. But got some work to do here for week two, and let's get into that work. Again, bullish buys, we're going to start with, as always, those expensive guys that you want to get into your lineup. I'm going to go first here, boys, hitting lead off. Jonathan Taylor, $7,700 at the Green Bay Packers. This play is a combination of volume and a good matchup kind of lining up. In week one, JT was the only Colts running back to record a touch of any kind. So carry, reception, anything. He was the only running back to do anything, get the football in his hands. And I'm not sure if you guys saw what Saquon Barkley did down in Brazil to the
Yeah.
Green Bay Packers defense, but he annihilated them, blew him off the field. Long trek home back from Brazil for the Packers this week, and they're going to be without their franchise quarterback in Jordan Love, which probably means a favorable game script for Indianapolis. So just spend the money on JT, folks. $7,700 at the Packers, and you won't regret it.
It's funny you mentioned JT. He was definitely a guy I was contemplating putting into my lineup as my bullish buy. I think he has a smash spot this week against the Packers, considering Jordan Love isn't going to be playing. So I think they're going to control the game script. He's going to get 20 plus carries. He's going to get those red zone touches. He's going to fall in the end zone. He's a lock this week. He's gonna do well in everyone's fantasy lineups.
Yeah, I definitely like that play. I mean, we'll hear a little bit more later on from me. I got a different take that I think will go along with Commission's play there. So definitely like that. I guess I'll go next here. My bullish buy is also running back. I paid up a lot here too. I went 7,400 Brees Hall. And look, I mean, he looked amazing. I think I saw everything I wanted to see from week one. I mean, just too bad he had to play San Francisco out of the gates, but like I said, he looks dynamic. I mean, in week two, he's playing against Tennessee. So they had a 46 PFF run defensive grade against the Bears. So like I said, comparing the Bears to San Francisco, I think Brees should have a really nice fantasy week in week two. And then yeah, just a little bit more in Tennessee. They're not really what they've been in recent years. They're kind of known for a kind of a stout defense in recent years, but I think that's because they had more of an efficient offense as well. And I don't think they're really gonna have that this year too. So I think this should be an easy game for the Jets. They're favored. I think it's an easy win, and I think easy win is fun to play running backs in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, Brees Hall is I mean, that's my guy, man. I had him as my RB2 coming into the season. Maybe I was a little too low on him, given Christian McCaffrey's situation. But so I like that call. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that? And then give us your bullish buy.
I love that call. We are on the same page. I'm glad Aaron went first because I actually have two guys I paid up for. One was Brees Hall, which I was going to talk about because I thought Aaron was potentially going to talk about another player. But Brees Hall, if you watched that Monday night game, it was all Brees Hall. And me and Kamish talked about this on our last episode. It was Garrett Wilson. It was Brees Hall. He played 86% of the snaps. And he was just, I mean, he was the guy, right? So obviously San Francisco was tough to run against, but I mean, he was getting a lot of looks in the receiving game. He toted the rock, I believe, 16 times for 54 yards. But yeah, sorry, he played 82% of the snaps, which is still awesome workhorse levels. He succeeded a few snaps to Braylon Allen at the end of the game as that game got out of hand. But it's funny, you look at the DFS, it gives the little red number 2 second next to Tennessee as the second like hardest team to run against. But that's just obviously skewed stats. The Chicago Bears ran a total of 14 times with their running backs. So I mean, they just didn't run the ball. I mean, Caleb Williams ran the ball 5 times. I didn't even count those. Velus Jones, who's like, I don't know if he's a receiver or running back, he had 2 carries, and I think DJ Moore had a couple carries. But so the Chicago Bears just didn't really run the rock. I think it was 19 total carries. So I think that's skewed. I think they're gonna control the game script pretty easily, and Brees Hall is gonna do work. So I guess because you talked about Brees Hall, I guess we can't. I guess have this episode without talking about a guy who I think is just going to be an absolute lock. And I think I know why you guys didn't talk about him because I'm sure you took some of his teammates. But I think we need to bring up Cooper Kupp at $7,600. He's not the most expensive receiver on the slate, which I think he arguably should be. I mean, he's coming off a outing where he had 21 targets, 14 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. And he's going against Arizona. It's one of the highest over unders on the slate. So I think it's hard not to try to get Cooper Kupp in your lineup because I think he's just going to get all the volume he can handle. So I definitely I paid up for Brees Hall and I paid up for Cooper Kupp. I just didn't want to be the person out there that didn't have Cooper Kupp when he gets like 30 targets.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Cooper Cup. I mean, especially seeing what's going on with that offensive line, they know they want to get the ball out quick, and they got a million design plays that can get the ball to Cooper Cup. So he's definitely a very safe play in week 2.
I'm worried about Cooper Cup's health. Not so much because he's going to get hurt on the field, but because they're going to throw him the ball so much that it might take years off of his life at the end of it,
Yeah.
as we saw them do last week. But yeah, I mean, so that for DFS, that's a great call, Cooper Cup. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to fight you on that too much. But let's keep rolling here. Let's go to our two deep segment where we talk about our defenses. Aaron got a hit with the Chargers last week, so are you going back to them this week, Aaron, or are you going somewhere else?
I'm not going back. I'm not going back here. But yeah, I'll definitely bat lead off again on defense. Hopefully I start off the gates hot here. So I mentioned you might hear a little something later with your Jonathan Taylor. I mentioned this in seasons prior that, one of the tricks to work out with, we talk stacking quarterbacks and wide receivers. I also like in DFS when you stack defenses with running backs. So I'm going the Colts here as well. I don't want to waste any time with this Jordan Love injury. I know they just, gave up a lot of points to the Texans, but yeah, now facing Malik Willis, I think the Colts should do pretty good against the Packers, which really should be one dimensional, really relying on Josh Jacobs. And when you look at Malik Willis's start in Tennessee, which it's just a year later where they're putting a lot of faith into him. But he was really on a tight leash with Tennessee on the games he started. They didn't really put him out there to fail too much. But I think if they get behind, he's going to be forced to pass. He can't rely with just RPOs for the full game. So I like the Colts here. I think Willis should make a few mistakes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're targeting a team that is they're hamstrung without their franchise quarterback. So I like that call. It's good. I mean, I don't think Green Bay is going to be able to move the ball incredibly well in this game either. So no hate on my part on that front. And the reason I asked Aaron if we were going back to the Chargers well from last week is because I'm actually going to the Chargers well in week 2 for $3,400. They're playing against the Carolina Panthers, and I don't know if you watched 1 minute of that Saints and Panthers game last week, but Bryce Young was a disaster. Dave Canales looked like he wasn't ready to be a head coach. It was just a complete beatdown from the second that ball got kicked off. The dynamic kickoff and all that, but like there was nothing dynamic about that game. It was over in 2 seconds. So, I mean, if you look around the league, I mean, like Deshaun Watson looked bad, Daniel Jones looked bad, but no one looked worse than Bryce Young, in my opinion, last week on the field. Just not ready to play. So I think Mack and Bosa should have a field day with Bryce Young, who's going to be running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Mistake prone guy. I could just see them absolutely giving it to this team in the second half. That's the way the Saints gave it to them in week 1.
How much? What's their cost?
3,400 smackers.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, both great calls. I love both these defensive teams for DFS this week. Malik Willis, I think he can't do much. Me and Kamish talked about this a little bit last episode, where sometimes or maybe last episode or offline actually, but I think that the Packers, if they're smart, they're going to try to protect Malik Willis as much as they can. So that's going to be a heavy dose of the run game and Josh Jacobs, similar to what the kind of Patriots did against Cincinnati. I mean, he didn't have to do much. They were safe. They won time of possession. The Packers probably won't. But I think they're going to do everything they can to protect Malik Willis, which might limit the turnovers, but you can't go wrong. I think the Colts are going to just destroy the Malik Willis led Packers. But I have to tip my cap to the commish. I went with the Chargers too, so I went back to that well for you, Aaron. And like Kamish said, I think Bryce Young may be the worst. Sorry, he is the worst of the 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. They will be looking for a quarterback in the draft next year. He was 13 for 30 last week, 2 picks, no touchdowns. They had 193 total yards against the Saints. The Saints caused 3 turnovers. They had 4 sacks. And the Saints defense last week had 14 fantasy points. I'm expecting just a beat down of the Carolina Panthers, and it's gonna get even worse for Bryce Young. So I was very, very happy to put the Chargers into my lineup.
I mean, we told everybody before the 2023 draft that Bryce Young was the third best quarterback in that class, and that was honestly we being too generous. Um, yeah, but it's a good thing they passed on Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. Nice job, guys. So they're right where
It's
they were, and they gave up a first round pick to do so. My bad, I forgot about that. So nice job. You reap what you sow, and they're going to stink for
insane.
a long time because
Yep.
of that. But we're not digging up old history here. We're looking forward here to winning some money this week. And in order to do that in DFS, you of course have to have those lower budget players in your lineup. So let's round it into our pick six category where we go over our defense our cheaper guys that we sneak in there. So Aaron, we'll go back to you, my man. Who's your first pick six player?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Ethan may like this. I'm talking a lot of running backs tonight. I know you're the our running back guy. But I'm going 5,500 right smack dab at where we go at the pick six category. I'm going on Najee Harris against Denver. So I really like Najee a lot this year. He should be the goal line but back week in, week out. But yeah, I mean, just Denver was horrible last year. On run defense, and they showed it this year as well, or in week one as well, right? I mean, their average depth of tackle last year was 6.3 yards. So that's how horrible they were as a run defense. They did nothing in free agency, nothing in the draft. And then yeah, guess what? Their run defense was 43 PFF ranking in week one, and their tackling grade was 37. So those are one of the worst grades you can get in PFF. So definitely not off to a great start. I know we don't have a lot of stats in 2024 to go off of, but yeah, I mean that was their trend last year, and I want to keep riding that in a run heavy scheme of like the Steelers with Arthur Smith. So I'm going Najee as my first pick six player.
Is Najee in your lineup, Ethan?
He is not, but I was very, very, very tempted to put him in my lineup. I think that's a great call. I think he's set up for a great day. He kind of dominated halfback touches or halfback snaps. He had 38 snaps last week compared to Jalen Warren's 22. He ran 12 routes to Jalen Warren's 7, and they both had 2 targets. Najee had 20 yards. Jalen Warren had 2. So if that trend continues, I think Najee Harris is going to have a great day. Granted, I don't know if Jalen Warren's was limited due to maybe the hamstring issue, but I think Najee Harris looked good last week in week one, and I think that continues into week two. So that's I was actually surprised by his price, which I was very tempted to put him in my lineup.
I was tempted enough to put him in my lineup. He was the first player I was going to talk about in this category as well. So I
Nice.
have him too. I mean, Ethan gave you the routes and the snap distributions. As far as the touches themselves go, Najee touched the ball 21 times to just 4 for Jalen Warren on the day. So he dominated this split backfield. That was kind of a question coming in was, is this the year that Warren takes on, a big chunk of Najee's workload? And that was not the case in week one. He wasn't healthy coming into week one. I don't think he's going to be fully healthy coming into week two either. So, and Denver, Aaron did a great job of painting the picture of Denver's defense being poor against the run, and we don't have a ton of data like he said, but Ken Walker ran for over 100 yards and over 5 yards per carry on this defense just last week. So I really like Najee at the price point, and he's going to be a guy I'm going to be putting a little bit of scratch on in the betting department this week too here. But Ethan, who's your first pick six player?
I'm gonna stick with the running back position. I'm gonna go to Aaron's guy. A Charger, J.K. Dobbins at
Woo!
5,400, so $100 cheaper than Najee Harris, and that's the guy I chose over Najee Harris. I just like Dobbins' upside a little more this week. I think Dobbins offers a little more explosion, a little more explosive plays. I mean, I think he had 10 carries for over 100 yards last week and the touchdown, and he played 58% of the snaps. So Gus Edwards, I mean, sorry. J.K. Dobbins was the clear lead back over Gus Edwards last week. I think that trend continues. And as we said, they're playing the Carolina Panthers. The Chargers are going to dominate this game. They're going to control the tempo. They're going to control the clock. And Harbaugh wants to run the rock. J.K. is going to get more than the 10 carries he got last week. And the Saints just dominated the Carolina Panthers on the ground. The Saints had 180 total rushing yards on 37 carries. and I expect a massive day, probably from both backs, JK and Gus Edwards. So I'm looking forward to JK's upside this week.
Yeah, I mean, I had nothing to complain about there. It's a good call leaning into the game script. I mean, I think the Chargers are probably going to be the number one survivor pick of this week for sure. And sometimes you just got to follow that the big point spreads, and you think that if it's pretty obvious one team's going to win, they're going to be running, and a run first heavy team like the Chargers leads for a good call for J.K. Dobbins in my book.
Yeah, and you have to take advantage of an early season healthy JK because it might not last very
That's
long.
right.
It can come and go at any minute,
That's
at
true.
any
I
minute.
guess
But
no, I was just gonna say, I guess I gotta have my claim to fame now. I'll say that the I told you so now before his injury because he was
there
definitely
you
my
go.
off-season guy.
There you go. Claiming victory over there. Love that. Aaron, who else you have for us?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go down pretty low price here. 3,100. This is at the tight end position though.
I know
So
I already know who it is. He's in my lineup too. So
ooh, okay. All right. So 3,100, you mentioned a teammate of his. You said Cooper Cup. I'm gonna go another off-season sleeper of mine. I'm going Colby Parkinson. All right, 3,100. The highest over under of the week at 50, that LA Arizona game. Like I said, he was one of my my sleepers this year. But yeah, I think it just amplified now with we learned with the Puka injury. On top of that, they have a banged up offensive line. So what that screams is just quick passes. It's most of them are going to go to Cooper Cup, but I think the ones that do not go to Cooper Cup's direction could go to Parkinson. I mean, he did have some nice looks last week as well. So I do like the Parkinson play in a high scoring game. So yeah, I'm gonna go with another one of my guys, and I did like what I saw week one from him.
Was Parkinson your next player, Ethan?
he was a guy I could have talked about, but I'm not gonna talk about him anymore because Aaron just did. But I love the call. I mean, yeah, obviously with Puka being out, I think his target share is going to increase. Parkinson barely left the field in week one. He's a mainstay at the tight end position for the Rams, and I was actually surprised he was so low at 3,100. So I thought that was a smash call by you, Aaron.
Good stuff, Aaron. Good stuff. I like it. I like it. Ethan, who's your next player?
So I'm going to talk about another one of Aaron's guys here.
Ooh, okay,
I,
I'll
I'm,
keep them. I'll keep them up.
I'm,
Keep them coming.
I mean, it's a terrible offense, but I'm gonna go back to the well with Wandell Robinson, 4,300. I just think I mean, 12
Nice.
targets is 12 targets. I mean, they always say targets are earned, they're not given, and Daniel Jones clearly wants to get the ball out quick. And at 4,300 in the PPR format, I'm willing to take the roll of the dice again on Wandale Robinson. They're going against the Commanders, who had the PFF's 32nd ranked defense against the pass in week one. It was tough sledding, obviously, for the Giants against Minnesota. I think they're going to have much more success against the Commanders. Daniel Jones has actually been very good against the Commanders in his career. He's 5-1-1 with a 10 to 3 touchdown interception ratio. So, hopefully that trend continues. It's basically Malik Neighbors and it's Wandale Robinson and nobody else. So they couldn't run the ball. So I mean, and they passed the ball over 40, I think 43 times. Daniel Jones through the rock. So I think at 4,300, I'm pretty excited to get Wandale Robinson into my lineup just for the I guess the floor play a little bit just in the target volume.
We're digging deep to say some nice things about Daniel Jones here.
Yeah, I know. I
That's
know.
my goodness, what a train wreck that guy was on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, Aaron, you're gonna like this one because that's your guy. You're a Wandell guy. He's actually tied for second in the league in targets at the moment. Uh,
I know I was really hoping he was my told you so this week. I mean, I considered saying it but I know targets aren't a fantasy point, but I was onto something last week. Hopefully it pans
yeah,
out.
you were onto something. Maybe your process was right there. It didn't lead you to the result, that's for sure. So you can't claim that yeah, you nailed it, but you were kind of on the right track there, getting the 12 targets. So hopefully Daniel Jones can keep the football in the stadium, and maybe he can hit one down on some of these this week. So we'll see how that one pans out. My bullish buy here to round out the category. I went to the quarterback position. Baker Mayfield at Detroit, $5,900, just attacking the highest over under on the slate. currently sitting at 51.5 points. Bit of a revenge game for Baker and the Bucks after they were knocked out of the playoffs last season in come January in at Ford Field in Detroit. In that game, Baker was great through for 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well. But we saw the Lions secondary in week one continue to give up yards through the air. Like that's how you move the football against this team. I mean, hell, the Rams had Puka Nacua get hurt. Their offensive line was in shambles. They were hemorrhaging bodies up front out there. And Stafford still looked great, over 300 passing yards and a completion percentage just honing in around 70. So I think if you look at what Baker did in week one, he was awesome with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin firing in this revamped offense. I mean, I just think this is going to be a high scoring affair, and I want a piece of the quarterback if I can get him for under 6,000, and I was able to do that with Baker for 5,900.
Yeah, I think that's a sneaky play. I think you made a great point with how, it could have been a train wreck with that offensive line from the Rams, and Stafford really made something from it. So I think with with Baker having, nice targets to throw to, and his offensive line not in shambles, I think he's got a good chance. He'll definitely be up there in pass attempts, maybe sneakily throwing a pass attempt over on his prop.
Yeah, I like the call. If you can get a guy like Baker who's coming off a 4 TD performance in week one for under $6,000, it's you can't really go wrong there. So I think Baker, I mean, hey, like we talked offline, Commish. It looks like Baker's looking for the MVP award this year, right?
He's fighting for it after the 1 week sample size, baby. Can't
That's
deny the
right.
man after hell of a game. But Aaron said maybe you might be pumping up the betting market on Baker here. I think that's a great little time to run into our hot takes segment. And I'm just gonna go first. Keep the train rolling. I got Baker Mayfield going for 300 plus passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and Mike Evans to score an anytime touchdown. That's my parlay.
Ooh, I like it. I like it definitely.
It's a lock.
It's a lock. Write that down.
Cash the ticket, baby. Just cash that ticket. Ethan, what's the next ticket we should be cashing? Or what's your hot take anyway?
Um, I'm gonna. This is the more I was thinking about it, I'm gonna go. It doesn't seem very hot because these should be locks, but when it comes on the betting front, nothing's a lock, especially for me. So we're gonna go 3 anytime touchdowns and 3 money line parlays. Here we go. So we're going to go anytime touchdown. We're going to go Brees Hall, Jonathan Taylor, and J.K. Dobbins. Lock those in. And then the corresponding teams, you take the money line for the Colts, the Chargers, and the Jets. Lock that into a 6-leg parlay, and you're going to be making some money, baby.
Okay.
Nice. I like that. I like
Six-legger
that.
kicker to start your week. I love it. Love to hear that.
I love it. So
Aaron, go.
mine's also on the betting front. I'm gonna say Najee goes over 100 yards, and I think he finds himself getting 2 touchdowns. I think
Ooh.
he's gonna be second best running back of the week behind Brees Hall. So definitely get Brees and Najee both in your lineup.
Aaron's going back to the 1990s
I
football
know
here.
exactly.
2 yards in a cloud of dust wins you some money in Aaron's book in week 2.
That's right.
All right.
think I got my swagger back.
When we are talking some Thursday night football, getting week 2 underway here, doing it right. Got a divisional matchup here, an AFC East clash between the Buffalo Bills, who are visiting the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk about the game itself, how we think it's going to go, and then we're going to talk about a DraftKings DFS lineup. You know the drill here, boys. We've been doing this every week here for the last few years now at this point. But for the listeners, maybe it's your first time in here. What we do is we talk about, like I said, the game itself, and then we talk about which captain's lineup you should be setting, which player you should be putting in your captain spot, and we also talk one bargain player, guy that's around $6,000 or less that you can sneak into your lineup. And obviously the captain's the big driving force of this game, so we spend a chunk of time on that too. How the captain's lineup works, for those who don't know, is you're the guy that you designate as your captain gets you 1.5 times the points in your lineup, but you also have to pay 1.5 times their normal cost in order to get them into your captain slot. So got to be careful of who you choose there. But let's start on with the game itself here. Miami is opening as a -2.5 point favorite in this one. The over is currently sitting at 49 points. So I guess Ethan, we're AFC East fans of the Patriots, the 1-0 New England Patriots, if
Yeah.
I don't say so myself. And well, I guess Aaron, Ethan, what do you think about this game, and how do you see it playing out?
I mean, what a week to start off week two. I mean, Miami, Buffalo. Obviously, for us fantasy managers, we're hoping for an offensive explosion. That very well could be the case. I do think the Bills are gonna take down Miami. Um, Josh Allen, the guy is just so good. He just puts the team on his back. It doesn't matter who's out there running routes at receiver or tight end. I mean, Josh Allen's just going to do his thing. So it's hard to bet against him. But yeah, so just looking forward to a good Thursday night AFC East showdown. And like you said, the Patriots are 1-0, so we're fighting for it. We're fighting.
We're fighting. We're in the fight. We'll see how it goes. Well, it's week to week now in New England, but it was a good start. Uh, Aaron, what do you think about this game from the outside looking in?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I think this is definitely a great Thursday night game. I think Bills Dolphins is definitely fun. Obviously for fantasy managers, there's a lot of people with that's going to be watching that just for the fantasy. But yeah, just real football as well. This is, I guess from the betting front, it's always a fun game where I think you can take a team and take the over. So I like so you mentioned it's 49 points currently on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I personally I'm gonna go the other way. Actually, I'm gonna go taking the 2.5 points with Miami, and I like the over. So anytime I can bet a team and the over, makes it fun to watch, whether you hit or not. But Miami's defense did impress me. I think that Jacksonville Miami game last week we thought was going to just be high scoring, high flying offenses, but it was really a defensive game. And especially Miami's run defense. And if you looked at the other side of the ball, Bills, the only thing they could really do actually was the running game, which you thought it was going to be in reverse. So yes, I know it's Josh Allen and and what he can do. And yes, he can run the ball as well, but I think Miami's run defense looked pretty good. And they already have strong corners. So we saw what they could do to our boy Christian Kirk. So I think with the wide receivers, we saw what Mahomes struggled with last year, and I think we may be getting signs that Allen might be struggling with that this year. But I like Miami in the over.
Okay, I'm halfway with you. I like Miami in this one too on a short week, and both teams had tough wins in week one coming from behind, and these division games, as we know, they're always tight. So the 2.5 point spread feels right. Um, so I think Miami pulls this one out by a field goal. But I actually like the under in this one, believe it or not. I know it's fun to root for points and an over and all that, but we're closing in on 50 points here. It's currently at 49, so I actually do like the under. Thursday night football can be sloppy, as especially now this is the first real Thursday night game where the teams are coming off a game, both of them playing on Sunday. So I think it's a touch high this over under. So I like Miami to cover and the under in this one. So those are our thoughts on the game itself. That's how I think it's going to go. But let's get to the meat of this exercise here, boys. Let's go to our captains lineups here. Ethan, we'll start with you. Who's going in your captain slot this week that's going to hit big for us?
So I gonna go with a guy I just talked about. I'm gonna go Josh Allen. I'm gonna go with a guy that I just talked about in Josh Allen with a price point of $16,500. Like I said, he kind of put the team on his back last week. He had 232 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and then had another 9 rushes for 39 yards and another 2 scores. Josh Allen, I mean, when they get to the goal line, he's gonna put the team on his back and he's gonna do his thing. So I just think he's the best player on the field, and he's arguably the safest player on the field. So I'm okay spending up on a guy like Josh Allen just because I think he's gonna blow up in fantasy just like he does every week.
Yeah, it's an expensive price point for a captain, but it's Josh Allen, and he even without the new weapons, he proved that he can still get it done in week one. That's for sure. Aaron, are you spending that much on your captain, or are you going a little cheaper?
Definitely going cheaper. I mean, you can't go wrong with Allen, and obviously, if your lineup pays off or you got some cheap guys, then hey, that can hit for you. But I'm gonna go with one of his targets, with which is a guy I was very upset over in week one. But I'm going right back to the well with Kincaid. He's 10,800. this week. As I mentioned, we all know Miami has good corners. In 2023, they ran man about 34% of the time. Kincaid actually excelled against zone, so he got about a 70-30 split there, roughly, which, knowing that, I kind of like that against man and zone looks, right? So as we know, when they're in man, I think they're going to lock down Buffalo's wide receivers, which really should open up the game for Kincaid. If they're in zone, I mean that's what Kincaid specializes in anyways, finding those creases in the zone. So I'm really hoping for a lot of looks Kincaid's way. Where I think Miami's going to score and Buffalo's got to keep up. So I'm really hoping Kincaid owners like a week 2 performance much more than his week 1.
Ethan, is Kincaid going to pay off this week?
No, he's not. No, I mean, no, I it's tough to kind of go back to that well a week after he just went what did he go? He went
Like
1 for 11. So only on 2 targets, and he played 83.6% of the snaps. So he was out there. I think he played of all the pass catchers on the field, he played the most snaps, and he only had 2 looks. I don't know why. I didn't break down the all 22s yet, but it's hopefully it's going to be a bounce back week for Dalton Kincaid. I just think I'd rather just pay up and get a guy that's I know is going to score points than Josh Allen. And at that 1.5x, I mean he could absolutely blow up. So that's why I paid up for Josh Allen, just because I don't really trust anybody, any of the pass catchers right now in Buffalo, just because I mean, it's only week 2. It's a short week too, and it looks like it is like Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins, and Shakir. I mean, Curtis Samuel only played 17 snaps, so that's the Buffalo offense. Cook also had 19 carries, which I was surprised how many carries he got. But I think Josh Allen is the engine that keeps that team going. So hopefully Kincaid, for all of us fantasy managers who have him, hopefully he bounces back. But I think I'd go in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting slate this week for the Thursday night game. I mean, Allen is a beast, but it's hard to pin down which pass catcher. So Aaron's trying to thread the needle there, which in a tournament play could pay off for you. I'll say
Yeah.
that. But I went pretty Miami heavy in my lineup here personally too. So which would be no surprise to find out that my captain is a Dolphin, and I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. $12,900. Coming off a strong week 1 performance, caught all 5 of his targets for 109 yards. Didn't find the end zone in that one, but decent usage considering he missed a chunk of time in the game while being evaluated for a concussion. Returned to the game later, and I think at 12,900, it allows me to get both quarterbacks into my lineup, and I had to go a little bit cheaper down the road to be able to do that too, but just enough flexibility here if you pop Waddle into your captain spot to build out a lineup where you can get both starting quarterbacks in there. But speaking, I guess we'll get to our cheaper plays in a second. Any thoughts on Waddle before we move on to who the cheap guys are for this Thursday night matchup?
I love the Waddle call. I mean, I said it last week. I think Waddle has just as much upside as any receiver in the league. This offense is explosive. I mean, any play, it could be Tyreek Hill, it could be Jalen Waddle. So he's a guy that he had a really good week 1. I was a little nervous. I got updates that he was out of the game on all my fantasy platforms, and then all of a sudden I see him scoring points. So I'm like, okay, at least he's scoring points there. But no, I like Jalen Waddle. I think he's going to be kind of steal where we were able to draft him in redraft leagues, and I'm excited I'm very excited for Jalen Waddle this year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't mind the Waddle play. I think as Ethan said, you can just flip a coin if it's going to be a Tyreek or Waddle play on that offense. So yeah, I mean that's the thing is it's somewhat of a gamble because it could just be an explosive Tyreek game, but I think last week showed you can have both receivers blow up and it's fine. And hopefully the Bills leave him wide open as Marvin Harrison was last week on that final drive.
Woof.
I know.
Woof. It's going to be a long day for Buffalo if that's the case. I'll say that. But let's talk about the nitty gritty here. Let's get really cheap here with our bargain plays here, guys. Who are those under the radar guys that are gonna at least make somewhat of a difference for you in lineups this Thursday night?
Yeah, I went with a Buffalo Bill, little stack with Josh Allen here. I went with Keon Coleman. He's $5,800, and he led all receivers outside Kincaid with snaps, with routes run and targets. So in a Josh Allen led offense, I'll take that. He has the best profile of any other receiver in that room. I think he should emerge as the season goes on as the alpha. Like I just said, we're talking about here Mac Hollins, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, MVS. I mean, Keon Coleman should be the number one there sooner than later. And in week one, he was number one across the board in the stats I just talked about. So I'm gonna go back to the well. Hopefully he can get a touchdown. I get that nice Allen to Keon Coleman stack here.
There you go. That's a good one. I mean, he's if you can afford him in there, then and you should do that. Especially, I like that more in a tournament too. If you going Josh Allen as your captain, you're just stacking him in there. Hopefully, he catches a touchdown, and then that off one play, you're giving yourself a big advantage there. So I like to call it there on my side.
Yeah, I like that too. As I mentioned, I mean, if the Bills take a page out of the Chiefs book from last year, I think it took them a while to figure out that Rice was a good wide receiver for him in that offense. Um, I mean, I guess it just depends how quick they want to just implement him as one of the main guys. I think they're really trying to see who's really going to emerge, and that didn't work out too well for the Chiefs last year. You really got to just pick your guys right out the gates. But yeah, I think so. I'm gonna go. I had a little bit of a hard time figuring out who my bargain play was my cheapest play. I'm actually going the Miami defense here. As I said, I thought their defense looked pretty good against Jacksonville, as we mentioned that we thought it was gonna be high scoring and all that. And like I said, their corners, I think, have a really good chance to lock down every single one of those Buffalo Bills wide receivers. So I'm kind of looking for a mistake that Josh Allen has been known to do, with being he gives up a lot, or he scores a lot of touchdowns, but he does throw picks too. So I'm kind of hoping for like a pick six or a couple turnovers from him as well. So that's who I'm going with my bargain play of the week.
Ethan, as someone who has Josh Allen as their captain and Keon Coleman as their
Uh-huh.
bargain player, tell me how much you dislike that call.
I mean, I don't love it. I don't know. I think whenever you're playing a defense against Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, you're rolling the dice here. I mean, you're basically essentially banking on like a pick six. You need that pick six. You need a fumble return for a touchdown. You need something like that because I don't think Josh Allen is gonna make the amount of mistakes necessary for the Dolphins to give you a real advantage in your lineup. So for those reasons, I'm kind of out on Miami. I just in a matchup like this when the over under 49. I don't think Vegas is expecting a lot of defense to be played.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, the interesting thing is like Allen does throw interceptions. I mean, he threw 18 last year, he threw 14 the year before that, but he's so freaking good that he comes down and just kind of erases that quickly. So I mean, it's a bold call, Aaron. I'll say that. And I shouldn't really blast it because my next call here is pretty bold too, at least for the price point. I'm gonna get real dirty with this one,
Oh
real nice and
God.
cheap. I'm going pay by the hour motel cheap here. I'm gonna go Jeff Wilson Jr.
Oh boy. Ooh.
$2,400 to get him in your lineup. So almost nothing. With both A Chain and Mostert listed as non-participants in Monday and Tuesday's practice estimates. They're not actually practicing with the game on a Thursday, but they were both listed non-participants, both nursing injuries already heading into week two. I think he sort of has that ability to come in here and be that guy that he's been in the past for fantasy purposes, where he has that one or two big games out of nowhere every year. And I think it's a nice low cost gamble to see that if in week two that if he can be that guy who comes in and it gives his team a little bit of a spark, maybe he hits a home run on a touchdown, a long run or something like that. You never know, but I think with Jalen Wright inactive on her game day for week one, it's pretty clear that Jeff Wilson's third in line for touches in this backfield right now. And if Achane and or Mostert are both limited, we know that they like to run multiple backs out there, and it could be the week that Jeff Wilson gets his for basically nothing from a cost standpoint.
You better hope Moster or A-Chain are limited because I mean he only played 11 snaps last week, so that might be a big goose egg in your lineup if that doesn't come to fruition.
Oh,
Ooh.
he'll get at least 1 point.
Ethan and his goose eggs. Don't put that curse on Kamish there, Ethan. You already did that to my beloved Hardman. But no, I
And
can't.
that's why you're getting help with Harmon. We're getting you help, Aaron.
All right, all right. I guess if it's an intervention, I might take it. But yeah, I can't say I love it, but I mean, I guess that was eye-opening. You know, I saw that as well. I know we love our Jalen Wright in Dynasty, but yeah, I mean, it's a home run shot, like you said, Kamish. And I think in tournament play, if they wind up with a touchdown, that's all the difference of scoring a little bit more money. So, I guess my only advice is maybe make another lineup with him not in it as well.
I mean,
But
it,
try it out in tournaments for sure.
I mean, with that hourly rate, you're not even sleeping in the hotel room. You're in the parking lot with that one.
Probably rather sleep in the parking lot than in that hotel room. But yeah, it's dirt. Like I said, it's downright dirty. It
Oh,
doesn't
that's
feel
dirty.
good, but you know what? Well,
Shower.
every now and again, those cheap hotels work out. So hopefully, this is the week where Jeff Wilson pans out. That's our quick hitting episode on Thursday Night Football and the captains lineups on DraftKings. Make sure you're checking us out there and hitting that subscribe button so you're not missing any Sunday Surefire content that we have coming down the pike, folks. And until next time, peace.